Charlene, we were talking a little bit earlier today about the social media guru inside an organization, and I don't mean it in the negative sense like the YouTube video where the guy's like extorting, I'll say bad stuff about you if you don't pay me to be your consultant, but I mean, you know, the person who is kind of out there with their own name on Twitter, on Facebook, being the community manager. And some of these people have turned into celebrities of their own right. And there's CMOs who are similar, right? Jeff Hazlitt was the opening speaker today. And some of these people have sort of paid the price. You know, Paula Berg was out there, Southwest Airlines, social's good, we get it. And then suddenly they're not there anymore. And Jeff's not at Kodak anymore. And you see that happening with, you know, Frank Eliason over at Comcast Cares going over to Citi. And so what's the danger of using your own, or an organization allowing the social front person to use their own brand versus kind of just having a generic company name? You've got Lionel at Dell, and then you've got other companies who've just said, you know, it's ABC Widget is their handle, and they're not going to talk a lot about the fact that it's Charlene behind it.
Right. I think, again, there are some places like Dell who really strike a very interesting balance between the two. So there's Lionel at Dell, which is his identity, but it's still a Lionel at Dell identity that he promotes.
Right.
And then there's Dell Outlet, you know, that Stephanie Nelson runs.
Right.
So I think it's actually really nice and balanced in that way. It's just that if you're going to be engaged in social media and you're going to do it on behalf of my brand, do it under the brand banner.
Yep.
Now, other companies will do it a different way. So they're going to take that star power, sort of the Robert Scoble approach to Microsoft. Goodness, Microsoft benefited so much from Robert's involvement early on. He left, but Microsoft still really benefited for the time that he was there.
So they didn't skip a beat?
They did, but are they better off never having had Robert? No. Or are they better off having had Robert for just 2 years? I think they're much better off having Robert for 2 years.
So Scott Monty, he's at Ford, he is a brand, but Ford now knows about social and will be fine if Scott decides to go to another brand.
Yeah, I mean, Ford is pretty big, and they will survive a Scott Monty departure.
Interesting. So it's something brands struggle with when they're scaling up social, so I appreciate your insights on it.
And you know, and my feeling is they shouldn't be scared about somebody leaving, because that will constrain them taking and appreciating that person being there. So if you're always worried about that person leaving, prepare for them to leave, I mean, what kind of way to operate is that?
Right.
Versus saying, I know at some point this person is probably going to leave. The
Yep.
stats say that employees leave after a certain amount of time. So I'll prepare for that day. In the meantime, I'm going to make the best of this relationship. I'm going to fully invest in that person's brand, because if they feel like they're getting something out of it, they will invest even more
in their job and their brand.
You know,
Good
and so
stuff.
I think
you lived it, right, with Forrester.
I lived it.
So.
And I happily invested in my brand at Forrester. It was always a Forrester blog. Everything I did was for Forrester.
Right.
And I fortunately was able to increase my brand. But when I left, I was very careful to leave it all behind. All my press relationships. The only thing I took that was really mine was my Twitter account.
Right.
But I had like 2,000 followers.
Right,
I mean, it wasn't worth anything. But then it's
and then they overreacted, and the social community told them what they thought about, you know, their new blog policies over there. So,
but by the way, I think it's appropriate for them. I think their blog policy is very appropriate for Forrester. As somebody who has been in the industry, knows what the client relationship is like, you want it to be under the Forrester domain. It makes sense to require that people be there, because you're an analyst producing content for Forrester.
Right.
That is their business. It's
right.
IP.
It's not like you're at Demand Media where you're just like a nameless person, you know, building up link bait. Right. Yeah, you're really, it's serious intellectual capital that people are paying a good buck for.
Right. So it makes sense for them to have that policy.
Good stuff.